Hello YouTube viewers, this is a video review of the Steelcase gesture, ergonomic gesture. I want to apologize in advance for any lighting errors that you might run across as you watch this video. I am taking this video at night, whereas my other chair reviews were taken during the daytime. The reason why I'm doing this one at night is because I actually have to pack this chair up and get a return tomorrow. So this is sort of a last minute review, and I just wanted to at least get it done and get it out to you folks while I still have the gesture. And I'll go into why I'm returning the chair later. But anyways, this is the gesture. It's made by Steelcase. Steelcase is sort of comparable to Herman Miller. If you haven't heard of them, both of them make high-end office furniture. I guess if you asked me, my opinion between the two, I think Steelcase is a little bit more about function over form, whereas I feel like Herman Miller might be a little bit more on form over function. Steelcase's products, they tend to be very robust, very solid, but possibly a little bit bland, maybe a little bit boring. You couldn't mistake them for a big box store chair, if you're looking at their chairs. Herman Miller, their chairs have very distinct design languages. You can't mistake them for anything but a Herman Miller product. If you look at the Aeron, which is famous worldwide, or if you look at the Embody, they just have very distinct looks, which I can't say is the same for Steelcase. You might want something that's a little bit more bland, so in which case Steelcase might fit you better. Maybe you don't want a chair that looks like it came out of the Enterprise, from Star Trek or something like that. So in which case, Steelcase might be up your alley. So anyways, so as far as I guess let me go into pricing. Always like to start pricing in case people don't realize how much these chairs cost. And if it's unfortunately just well out of your price range, then you don't have to keep watching this video in case you wandered upon it. But this chair, it's not cheap. It starts at $959, and that's for the base level. If you decide to option it out with aesthetics, or there's not too many ergonomic options I think you can add on, but it's mostly aesthetics. But if you do add on any other options, you could option this chair all the way out to I think almost $1,400. So yeah, unfortunately it's not cheap, but as I said in my other videos, if you're sitting at a desk, whether it be for work or play, if you're sitting there for hours upon hours, 8 hours or more, which I personally do, I think it's well worth spending good money on a good chair. If you divide it out by how much you spend on the chair, and you divide it out by how many hours you have to spend sitting, and then you factor in the fact that these chairs usually come with 10 or 12-year warranties, I think it's well worth spending good money on a chair. You'll potentially, especially if you do it while you're young, if you can somehow afford to do it while you're young, it'll potentially save you from back pain down the line. And let me tell you, once you get back pain, you'll throw any money, if you have, you'll want to throw anything at it to get rid of it. So yeah, it's expensive, but consider it like a one-time splurge. I do recommend going for it if you can. So anyways, let's talk about what my chair has then. So this is a pretty, it's almost maxed out in terms of options. This right here is it's actually leather. It's the leather version of it. That is one thing I like about Steelcase versus Herman Miller. I like that Steelcase does at least offer leather as an option, and if I can, I always like to get leather because I think it'll be more durable in the long run. But I guess ironically in this case, the leather is why I'm also returning this chair. Let's see, if you're as far as the upholstery goes, the options, you can either get it in cloth, which is the base level, and there's just one texture to that. There's no multiple options like the Embody had. It's just one basic cloth level. and from there you can move up to, I guess like they just call it leather. I'm not sure what type of leather it is. It might be vinyl leather, uh, probably some kind of man-made leather though. And even and that option isn't cheap, unfortunately. It's that option. Well, if you choose to get that leather, it adds $380 onto the chair. And then you have what I have here, which is called Elmo soft leather. It's a genuine, authentic leather. I think they say it comes from like Scandinavian cows or something. But yeah, so going back to why I'm returning it, it's because this Elmo soft leather isn't as soft as I imagine it would be. It's actually very, very stiff, and it doesn't have much give, unfortunately. So for me, I think for this chair, for me personally, I think I should have actually gotten cloth, and so that's actually why I'm returning this chair. I'm returning, and then from there I'm gonna think a little bit more, and it's possible that I might just exchange this for a cloth version. But yeah, so those are the three upholstery options that you have for the gesture. And then, as you can see, it's like typical theme by now. It's like a white on black here. Most of it's black, the upholstery is black, and then I have white trim on the chair. You can get it, this one's called light on light. You can get it dark on light on dark, or dark on dark. And I think it basically just alternates whether this panel is black or white and vice versa. And you can ultimately get it in all black if you want something that's sober and just blends in. But again, for me, I'm using it in a home environment, so I wanted something a little bit, something a little bit more trendy looking, I guess, something that's more eye-popping, just to give the chair a little bit of a contrast. See this right here. This is a adjustable lumbar support. This is actually an optional feature, and I think this is actually the only optional, like functional feature you can add onto the chair. If you get a base gesture, it comes with all the adjustments that the chair can ever have, except for this lumbar support, which is kind of nice if you compare it versus like say a Mira 2 or an Aeron, where you have to add each option on one by one. And I mean, a lot of those options I think are mandatory. I don't think they should be options. They should just come with the chair. So with the gesture, it at least comes with all that, and it's just this that's missing. So this right here, is really just a piece of plastic that stretches across the back, and it's meant to be height adjustable. I highly recommend you just throw it in because it's only $20 when you're buying a chair. And usually, at least when I found this out when I was trying to buy this part for my Leap, which is another chair that Steelcase makes. It turns out that this part here, if you try to buy it, after you buy the chair, it's like a $100 part. So I highly recommend you just throw this part in when you're buying a chair, even if you don't think you'll use it, because it's so much cheaper up front. So there's that. And then another weird thing about this part is if you're trying to buy this chair straight from Steelcase, they actually don't even offer this as an option, which I find really weird. I bought this from a third party vendor, not directly from Steelcase. And so this was offered as an option, so I just threw it in for $20. Anyways, let's see. This right here, this back, or actually this part here rather. This is called a wrapped back. You can also get it in what's called a shell back. So the difference is just that the upholstery will get wrapped over to the back. If you choose not to get the wrapped back, it will just be this plastic here, will just extend all the way up to the top, and you won't have this upholstery. This was a pretty cheap upgrade too, to have the wrap back. I think it was like only like $15 or something. So I guess up to you if you want to have this or not. I think Steelcase kind of took a cue from Herman Miller's Embody though when they did this, because I think the Embody was the first chair that did this wrap back look, which I thought was kind of interesting. Um, and then I guess the last thing is my base here. Um, I chose to just stick with the stock base, which is a satin silver. And mainly the reason is because this frame here, it always will, I don't know if well actually no, not always, but I think with this white color scheme it will be in silver. I think it also comes in black too, if you choose like a black on black look. But this is a satin silver, and the base by default is a satin silver, so I just wanted the metals to match. You can option to get a polished aluminum base as well. That adds I think about $100, which I guess is reasonable if you compare it versus like what Herman charges for theirs. It's like in the 200s. So you can get, if you want a shiny base, you can get that too. But yeah, it would mean that your metals don't match, which I thought would be kind of weird. So I chose not to do that. The casters are just standard casters. I think they're like 2.5 inches or something, and they're carpet. The other option is a floor. You can get a hard floor caster as well. And by default they're kind of big, so which is kind of nice. They roll very easily, I think. And they're some of the bigger casters I've ever seen, like coming on chairs. So yeah, I think in terms of options, that's about it. So let me go and just talk about the chair now. To the chair features. So the gesture comes in, let's see, again, it pretty much just comes with just one option in terms of the features it comes in. It pretty much comes fully loaded by default, minus that lumbar support. So you have, over here, you have all your knobs and adjustments are pretty much just on the right side. There's pretty much nothing on the left. So see, on here you have this is the seat depth adjustment. So it slides the seat forward or slides the seat back. So this is the type of seat depth adjustment I like, where the whole seat is actually sliding forward or back on rails. And in the case of the gestures one, it's really nice. Like, you don't have to lift your legs up, you don't have to lift your weight off the chair. You can stay seated and just move it and with one hand, and it moves. It just moves very smoothly and nicely. So yeah, Steelcase did a great job with this. And I do find myself using it fairly often, like depending on how much back support I want. It sort of works in conjunction with the lumbar support of this chair. So it's not for me. It wasn't really just a set once and forget knob. I actually do move this seat in and out depending on what I'm feeling like doing. The back here is this is the tilt tension adjustment. So turn it one way and it tightens it up, turn it the other way and it loosens it up. Sort of hidden in the back here is a paddle. This controls your tilt lock. And then over here, there's a paddle over here. This controls your seat height. So nothing special there. And then lastly, you have your armrests. There's two trigger buttons down here that control the arms going up and down. So let's see. So I guess let's go ahead and go into each feature in detail. So the armrests are kind of, I guess, the signature feature of the gesture. Steelcase said that they did a global study when they were trying to create the gesture, and they found out that thanks to mobile devices, there were like now 9 new postures that they had never seen before. I guess the conventional posture in the past was that you would just be sitting at a computer, typing away or whatever. But thanks to the explosion of mobile devices in the past, few years, people have been, going into all these other different postures that Steelcase, I guess, never observed before. And so as a result, they wanted to create a chair that would ergonomically support people that had to use mobile devices a lot at work, like tablets and smartphones, and it came up with the gesture. And most of it's in these arms. So these arms, they can tilt out, tilt in, they can go in and out like this, they can slide back and forward, and then using these trigger buttons on the side, you can move the arms up and down. So if you combine all of these together, you get a really smooth, like, where you can kind of really put these arms exactly where you want them to be. And then I think their intention for, if you're using a mobile device, is you kind of have it up here like this, and you can just put your mobile device up here and read like this. Which I have to admit, it's sort of a comfortable position if you're trying to read a tablet or something. I personally don't use that myself. I don't really use I don't do a lot of reading off of my mobile devices when I'm sitting like this. So, but I do like that, these are by far the most adjustable arms I've ever tried on any chair. So, and I think they may be also the highest too. Like, you can get the highest up with these armrests. So yeah, I do like the adjustability a lot, for sure. It's pretty much the best I've ever tried. The only thing I don't like about these armrests is that I guess one is they have a bit of a slope to them, like this. They kind of slope downward, and that slope increases as you bring this in closer. So sometimes when I'm just resting my elbow on this, like right now, I can already feel like my elbows feel like they want to just slip off the side. And this is a complaint I've read about elsewhere too, so I think I'm not alone with this complaint. The other thing I don't like is that the top of the armrest, the texture used, and instead of being just smooth like most other armrests or arm pads out there are like, this one actually has a rough texture. And so the first few days I was using it, so I had to really kind of get used to it over time. But yeah, my first few days with it was really rough. Like, it just felt like I was rubbing my arms on like a fine sandpaper all the time. So I really wish they'd just use like a smooth texture on this instead of making it rough. And it's just a plain vinyl, top, nothing fancy really. I guess the last complaint, I don't think I've really had an issue with it, but some people did mention that they find the arm pads kind of hard. And I guess I could see where that complaint comes from, because they don't have a whole lot of give, but for me, I haven't had an issue with that. I think I have more of an issue with the roughness of anything. And then, and also the fact that these arms don't lock at all. Very, very easy to move them out of position. And it's kind of funny because I actually saw an imitation of these arms in a chair that I think was recently being sold at Office Max. And on that chair, the arms, even though they're designed like this, they actually do lock. Like, they actually have detents. So I found that ironic, because I think that design is actually better than the real deal here. I think Steelcase is just trying to shoot for a design where you could smoothly manipulate the arms on the fly into any direction. So I think that's why they made it so that it doesn't lock. But in reality, I think they should have made it lockable, or at least put some clicks into it so it isn't so easily moved. I guess I kind of went over the seat depth already. Yeah, I like it. It's pretty standard fare. Nothing much more to say there, I think. I guess one thing I would mention though is the seat edges, or the seat edge here. It doesn't really have, even though the front is rounded, it's not really like a waterfall design, I think. So the seat kind of just goes straight out, versus having like a slope towards the end. So for me, sometimes I do still feel like my legs, it's almost, especially if combined with the leather's firmness, I do sometimes feel like my legs are falling asleep from that, because it's like it doesn't have that natural slope at the end that would normally prevent, you know, your blood circulation from getting cut off or whatever. So I do wish this was maybe just a little bit more sloped in the front. But otherwise, yeah, it's not too bad. I do like also that in the back there's, I mean, if you move the seat pan all the way back, there's not much of a gap between the bottom and the lumbar support area. Yeah, I've had some chairs where there's a big gap between these two, even with the seat pan all the way, you know, adjusted all the way back. That's not an issue with this chair at all, so that's kind of nice. Let's see. I guess the tilt limiter. So the tilt limiter has 4 steps. If you bring it all the way down, it's locked. If you bring it all the way up, it's in full recline mode. You can recline as far as you want. And there's 2 steps in between that stops you. So if you sit all the way down, it stops you from reclining. And unlike Herman Miller's, when they're in, you know, that locked upright position, this one really doesn't have a lot of free play. There's a little bit of free play if you move like this, but once you kind of sit all the way back though, it doesn't really rattle anymore. If you bring it up one, it goes back like that much. Bring it up one more, it goes back that much. And if you go full recline, it goes back like that. So one thing that's a little bit different about Steelcase's chairs, and it's the same as it is, it's the same on the Leap as well, is that when you recline, the recline sort of has like a stickiness to it, or like a resistance. It's not as smooth as like Herman Miller's chairs reclines, or even like other big box store chairs. You recline it, it's like you feel like you have to kind of force it back. And same thing when it's coming up, it comes up very, very slowly. So it's a different sensation, it's a different feeling, but you know, you kind of get used to it. And I think the nice thing is it sort of makes it easier to kind of put it exactly where you want it and kind of stay there, without having to adjust your tilt locks or whatever. So yeah, that is something that's just a little bit different. Also, they changed the reclining system from how it was done on the Leap, which is, you know, the previous flagship chair that Steelcase made. The Leap, the seat pan would slide forward as you reclined, and it was designed to keep your eyes level with your monitor. Whereas with this chair, I think they went back to like a sort of like a more common single tilt mechanism where the seat pan will just slightly lift up as you recline, and it lifts up just a little, versus like lifting up a lot like most cheap chairs do. It lifts up just a little, and it's meant to keep your feet planted on the floor. So they kind of went back to that system. So the seat pan doesn't slide forward or anything; it just simply lifts up slightly. And I prefer this system, I think, much more than the I think it's like some kind of glide system that the Leap used. On the Leap, because of how it slid the seat forward, it felt like my torso was being pulled apart from my legs, which resulted in me feeling like I was slouching more. Like it would be more easy to just slouch. This one though, it's easier to keep my back in full contact with the back of the chair. So yeah, for me, the Gestures reclining system, I like it more than the Leaps. Let's see. Oh yeah, and as far as the tilt tension goes, it's sort of like an infinite system. You can get it to be super loose, or you can get it to be super tight. There's really no restriction to that. Unlike say some big box store chairs where there's like a very small range tension and you can adjust those chairs too usually. This one is pretty huge, the range. So that's pretty nice, similar to Herman Miller's. Lumbar support on this chair. It's sort of just built in. There's unlike the Leap, there's no adjustment to it. The Leap had an adjustment knob where you could actually increase or decrease the amount of lumbar support you got. With this one, it's just one setup, so to speak, or one setting. Which is to say you're either gonna like it or you're gonna hate it. For me, it happens to be I honestly would have to say this is actually the best lumbar support I've ever felt in a chair. It just happens to fit my back really well. I don't feel like I need more or less. But with that said, I would have to say it leans more towards being on like the aggressive side. So this chair kind of has like a lot of lumbar support. So, which is what I need. If you have a fairly flat back, you might not like it. This might be too much for you. But if your back has a pretty prominent C shape, which mine does, yeah, this thing just fits me like a glove. And if your back is fairly curved, you might like this a lot too. The height adjustment, again, the $20 throw-in option. It's not available directly from Steelcase, and I guess I can see why once I tried it. In reality, if you move it up and down while sitting in it, yeah, you can feel the thing sliding up and down, but once you lean back in a chair, it doesn't feel like it's making that big of a difference, truth be told. So I guess I can kind of see why Steelcase doesn't include it, because to them, they say it themselves that they don't really feel like you need it. It's like a mandatory thing. The chair's lumbar support by default kind of takes care of everything already. The back here, the whole back shell here is, they call it the 3D Live back system, and as you sit in it, you can kind of feel it working, where the back kind of tilts in and out, and part of it is because it is spring-loaded down here in this base area. There is like a hinge, so yeah, as you're reclined, you can actually kind of still move your back around. And it'll kind of move with your back. One thing I guess I don't like about the back though of the gesture is that unlike the Leap actually had much more upper shoulder support, whereas on a gesture you don't really have much at all. I do feel myself missing that upper shoulder support sometimes, or upper back support. You can see where there's like a pretty big gap here as well, I think. So yeah, most of the support's just in your lower back or lower mid back, not too much in the upper back. So if you're particularly tall, you might find that an issue. I do myself sometimes. I'm 5'9". So yeah, that's something. I guess that's something to think about. And there is no headrest option as well for the gesture. What else? Oh yes. Also with the locking, the seat back lock, I notice sometimes, I don't know if it's a defect with my chair or if it's just because of how heavy the back is, but sometimes if I want to lock it up right, it won't necessarily come up on its own. I have to sometimes like help it up like that to really pull it all the way up. Yeah, and same thing if you want to release it, sometimes you have to pull it up before you can unlock it. I think that's an issue I don't recall feeling with Herman Miller chairs, at least if you're trying to activate their locking system, their tilt lock system. This one you kind of have to like help before you can unlock it. So I don't know if that's a quality control issue or if it's just the way it is. Particularly because the back is very heavy. But anyways, I think that's it, for the chair features. So, let's see, I guess pros and cons of any. There's not too much to go over here, but pros is one, I do like, again, I like the adjustable arms. They're the most adjustable arms I've ever felt on any chair to date. the seat edges, I do like that they're soft all around. You could sit on them sideways, but there is a bit of a edge here, so yeah, it's not that comfortable, but it can be done if need be. On this leather model, I do like that. Unlike the Leap had a thick stitching that came right across here, and for me, I could actually feel that stitch dig into my back over time, and it did get kind of irritating. The stitches in there on the cloth versions, on the Gesture, the stitching runs much lower down here, so it's in a spot where you don't feel it, and I really like that they did that on the leather version of this chair. And again, I think the cloth version doesn't have a stitch at all. So yeah. This chair is very, very solidly built. It weighs a ton. It weighs, I think, as much as in a body. The shipping weight for this chair, I think, was like 70 pounds, and it feels like that. The chair itself is probably at least, I think, 55 to 60 pounds on its own. When you try to move the chair around, it feels heavy, noticeably heavy. So if you like that, then it's gonna be a pro. But if you don't like pushing around heavy chairs, then it's gonna be a con. But this chair is very solid. It does not rattle. It does not creak. None of that. And then again, I think Steelcase products are they're built. I think they're kind of built more solidly than Herman Miller.